Well, hello, everybody, and thank you, Donella, for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You have to bear with me. I'm looking at my camera, but then I'm looking at you. So I'll look at the camera so it looks like I'm talking to you. Um, well, thank you so much for joining. I know we have, you probably hear my son in the background. Um, we have, we're going to go over, does the perfect trade partner exist? And I wanted to start with about you. I mean, you're a general contractor. You've done this for over 25 years and had your own business for 4 years. Why don't you tell us a little more about you and what got you interested in construction and kind of how you just view the industry?
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. This is really cool. I love doing these things. Um, let's see. So, my background, yeah, you kind of nailed it. So, my background is design, architectural design. And so, I've been designing remodeling projects for about 26 years now. And throughout that time, working for other people's companies, learning all the things about remodeling and or at least as much as I possibly could learn and eventually decided that it was time to start my own company. So here I am. I'm in my fourth year right now, and best decision I ever made. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my company, I do home remodeling. So
yeah. And so you're basically, if I'm going to sum it up, you're a general contractor for more like a custom home in a sense where, people are coming in and designing what they want. So
yeah, and
you have,
actually, I'm doing all the design work actually.
yeah,
Yeah, they a lot of times people will come to me and they don't even know what they want, and I
yeah,
say that's fine. I will show you what's
yeah.
matches what you
So
want.
to put that in perspective for like a subcontractor, I mean, you're working with some of the hardest people in the industry to please. I mean, it's one thing to have specs and drawings and an owner that expects it to be done on time, but when you invade somebody's home where they don't know what they want, they hope it comes out the way you want, the colors, everything. I mean, you have like the nitpickiest clients. So that's that's different than us from the commercial side. Um,
Sure.
it's a little easier to make people happy when you know what they want.
Well,
Uh,
right, and you mentioned that I have the nitpickiest clients, and I don't. I have the best clients. I have clients who, um, they want a quality product, and they want a home that feels like their home, and they want to stay living in the neighborhood that they live in, and I help them get there. So,
right, right. You're right. They're not the nitpickiest. I've just noticed also that that it's you're invading somebody's home. It's a lot
Mhm.
different than just going into their commercial workspace or starting a new building with that nobody's in. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
so, as a general contractor doing design build homes, you work with a lot of people and all
Mhm.
kinds of subcontractors. So, in your experience, what qualities do you look at when you're considering working with a new subcontractor? Because I know your answer is not going to be, we're just going with the low bid.
No, I don't generally go with a little bit. If you meet all these other criteria and you're the little bit, then great. But so first of all, just talking about like low bid, generally speaking, I'm not bidding people against each other. For the most part, I work with a really set group of trade partners who I've worked with for many years. And I trust them and they know me, and we trust each other's process, and we've learned the way each other works. And so most of my trade partners are pretty long-standing suppliers, and the trades that are working on the job.
Yeah.
Um, but when I'm looking for, I don't know, the qualities that I'm looking for are great communication, clear, direct communication, and just really willing to have the upfront communication and planning ahead of time. So there's
Mhm.
sometimes I will run into trade partners who don't really like want to go onto the job site ahead of time, or they don't want to, they just want to have plans and get awarded the contract and then show up for the job. And while I appreciate that, because they have so many other jobs to be doing, it's just as important for them to be on the job site and seeing the space before they come to work, not just at the trade partner walkthrough that is months ahead of time, but 2 or 3 days before they start, so that if for some reason, like I think I've got everything ready for you, but what if I don't? And what if you're seeing something that I'm not? And I can't be. I try to make sure that I have the job. I think my job is to make sure that the work environment is one that everyone can succeed, and everything is ready for the next person along the line. I can't be everything to everyone, and I can't know what you're the expert. So it's like if I have an electrician like you, Josh, like if I'm not seeing all of the things that you need in order to start your job, then it's really difficult for me to know that.
Right.
So
I think that's a really good point. Even moving to the commercial space, because I know a lot of people that are going to watch this are in there. There's so many aspects that need to be done at a certain time, and certain things have to be done before. And I know when we talked the other day, you talked about that gap of work that nobody has in their scope, but it has to still get done.
right.
And you're fine doing those, but you're not aware of what they might be in some cases. So I think it's best practice to just have somebody, general superintendent, whoever, drive by a job site first to make sure, everything's in place, we're good to go, and you're set up. I'm sorry, he's normally not crying on the background.
That's all right. I totally agree. Totally agree. And there are also that gap between the two. There are also things that, like, maybe the last trade isn't going to do it and the trade next is not going to do it, and so then I end up having to do it. But if we're not all having those conversations to pinpoint those things and identify that the insulator isn't going to do the insulation below the slab and the concrete guy's not going to do the insulation below the slab, like, who does the insulation? Oh, it's me. If no one has told me that, or that if I didn't know the right questions to ask. And typically I'm asking tons of questions, way more, I think, than sometimes folks want me to, but it's because I'm just trying to identify those things so that every project can go as smoothly as possible, stay on schedule.
No, it's smart that you want to get everybody on the same page and go through everything. And I 100% agree with that. So there's so much to identify, obviously, like when you're going through that business development and learning, maybe I want to use this subcontractor, or I need another person because I'm growing. So what are some yellow flags or red flags that you look for as like no-go situations for people?
That's a great question. I would say one of the biggest ones is if I'm talking with a potential trade partner and they are talking over me, or like sort of not really paying attention or listening to what I'm saying. They're just sort of giving canned answers, or just trying to like move past it to get to the next thing. Like, if you're not able to give me your attention and take me seriously. So one of the, I don't want to go too much into like women in construction, but at the same time, like, a lot of times I'll find when the very first time that I talk with somebody, if it's a man, they'll like act like who am I supposed to be talking to here? Because it's clearly not you. And it's like, well, it is me. And they don't appreciate that I'm asking questions when, and they're assuming that I'm asking questions because I'm a woman, and it's really that I'm asking questions because I want to make sure this job goes as smoothly as possible for everybody.
Right. You're good at what you do. Yeah.
And so that's one of the things, is like when people are sort of breezing past the process that I am trying to take them through, and the whole planning part of it. And I would say another red flag for me is when is the phrase, "It is what it is." That's one of those phrases that gets said a lot in construction. And I understand in some situations how that is the phrase that needs to be said, but if we're falling back on yeah, well, that's the way I did it and it's not going to be done another way, or I'm not going to fix that, or whatever it is, that's not something that's acceptable to me. Like,
Yeah.
if it truly is, like, if we talk about it and it's like, yep, you're right, that's the only way that could have been done, that's, this is going to be the outcome, so we're going to have to like figure out what the next 10 things are in order to make sure that this is okay in the long run. But if it's just, I did it and I wasn't paying attention and I don't really care what your standards are, so we're going to leave it the way it is, that's unacceptable to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. That all makes sense. From a subcontractor perspective, we're always thinking like maybe the general contractor is overreaching. But at the end of the day, you are our client. We know what the product needs to be. We just need to help you figure out how to get there with our part being integral. Obviously, you wouldn't hire us if it was just background noise, right?
Of course.
We have a part that has to get done in a certain way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. So at the end of a project, how do you define what's successful, and ultimately how does the subcontractor move from being new onto like your preferred subcontractor list?
So how do I define success? I mean, how does anybody define a success? On time, on budget, quality work, that kind of thing. But also, so those are sort of givens, right? I'm going to just pretend those are givens. And beyond that, as far as like the relationship goes, if it felt like we were a team during the build, that's a really good sign. If they're willing to work with me, and if I'm willing to work, I'm always willing to work with people, but if they're willing to kind of have that give and take, and they're really willing to do that upfront planning, and do the meetings and have the conversations, and just really make sure that the two of us are on the same page and their team is on the same page, and just communicating all of that, that's usually the biggest the biggest reason for success.
Yeah.
And if that's the way they work, then they move to a permanent spot on my list.
I know I get asked all the time, I want to be on the preferred bid list. How do I make sure I get every job? So I'm not competing with other people, and it's perfect that you're laying it out like that, because I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but people don't take it from me all the time, or it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah. I think it's really important. I'm sorry. It's really important to note that. So like I said, on time, on budget, quality work, those are all givens. That should be seen as non-negotiables, right? Like that should always be the givens. And of course, there are times that maybe there was a delay, and maybe there was, some reason, or there was a change or something. And so schedules change and things like that. But if a schedule changes and it's delayed, and, it delays the project because of the schedule change, because of a change order, that's not on time. Like, that's still on time. But same thing with budget, and quality there's not really negotiation there, but it's really those things that when you go above and beyond to really develop a relationship with somebody, that's what's really, at least in my perspective, that's really what's going to get you to the next level.
Right. Yeah. I love all of that. And again, since you're residential, do you think that if you got into like the commercial or industrial space, that you'd look at those qualities different or weigh them differently? Or do you think it's probably the same thing all across the board?
I don't think so. I mean, it's really just defining what a great working relationship looks like. Going into a different space, a commercial or industrial space, I don't think that has anything, it's just different work. It's not a different way to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of a lot of people that I talk to think that commercial clients or like business clients, if you will, versus like homeowners are a little
Mhm.
bit different in how they respond to everything. But at the end of the day, we're all people and we all want the exact same things.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And if we're treating, if it's a business to business kind of a situation and we're treating people like we have a relationship with them, it's no different than a business to client relationship where we have a relationship with them. And the thing is like when the most of the people that I work with, homeowners, they
Mm-hmm.
are busy professionals. They're out there doing exactly what we're doing, but in their own space.
Yeah.
And so to think that like, working with a homeowner is any different, like they know what professional is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just like setting up a great relationship with a trade partner, I work to do the same thing with my clients, which is why I was like, they're not nitpicky. They're awesome. Like I love my clients because I work really hard at working with people that I like, and that
Yeah.
hopefully like me. I mean, they wouldn't work with me if they didn't. So
Yeah, exactly. And if anybody has any questions for Donella, please drop them in the comments. It'll pop up and we'll pull those up. I have a couple more questions just because I have a bunch that I get asked all the time since I've been in the industry for a while. And, you know, instead of me telling everybody one at a time, I figure what better way than hear it from the horse's mouth in figurative speech. um, so, people assume a lot of things that are subcontractors. They assume if I make this one big mistake, like they're never going to want to work with me again. Like pushing to get paid on time or pushing to get paid at all. So,
Mhm.
is there an example that you'd be willing to share of a trade partner that you had a good impression of, even though they made a tough conversation like that happen, that maybe some would have viewed as I'm gonna hurt the relationship instead of help it.
Um, an example of that. Um, that's a tough one because again, like it's all in how you handle things. And so
Mhm.
if the thing was a really, bad thing, destroyed the project or, whatever it is.
Right.
But the person or the team that created the situation, um, if they come back and they're like, okay, this is what happened. This is, whatever. Let's figure out how to deal with it. We really want to work with you. And they're very like, they're not like, this happened and we're not taking any ownership or we're not, that kind of a thing. If they're not a team about it, then
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to be a team about it either. It's a two-way street. I'm going to try to get them to, you know, see if we can work things out. Um, but
Yeah.
if that again, if you damage the relationship in the process, that's probably something that's going to sever your ties with that person, or at least think twice about calling on the next job. But
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I mean, there's not really much that you
Mistakes
can.
don't seem like they bother you. It's a matter
No,
of how you handle the mistake,
yeah,
or
absolutely. Uh,
like maybe they're bringing up a mistake you made, like, hey, I noticed that I didn't get paid on this date like you said,
mhm.
and it's the way
Please
that they
do.
handle it that
Yeah.
you know um
Yeah, and
so
I know that one of the things that you are like your motto or whatever is like get
yeah.
paid. And so I totally respect that and I support that. And yeah, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect general contractor. I have paid my trades late and I hate it. I hate it.
Mhm.
I'm a one person company. And so sometimes things slip through the cracks. I've also had times where cash flow was not what it should be. And I had to, you know, do a payment plan or, delay
Yep.
a payment or whatever. And the thing
Yeah.
is again, if I am reaching out to them and saying, I'm so sorry, there's a problem. Can we work out a payment plan? Can we, what do you want 100% down on the next job? Like whatever it is, I'm willing to, and I'm proactive about talking with people about like, what can we do to fix this? And I would say the same thing to them, if, gosh, what has not really ever happened, but like if somebody said, oh my God, I know I'm supposed to be starting in 2 days and we just checked and we're double booked and we need to go to this other job and something like that, I would be like, that's not okay. But also, let's talk about like, is there a happy medium? Can you come over? Like, can you send a couple people for half days until you're done with that other job? Or, can we work something out? If you're respecting the relationship and you're communicating, you're trying to work together, there should be no reason why it needs to damage it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to let the homeowner know, like, hey, this is going to be delayed and this is what happened. And as long as you're transparent, I found that people are very receptive to all of that. And something I find really interesting that I don't know if anybody else picked up on this, but you've been in construction business for 25 years and you can't recall a single time of a bad tradesperson, but I guarantee you've had conflict in 25 years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But it's not detrimental enough. And that's the thing is I try to coach people even as a CFO, like you have to have these difficult conversations and it's not going to hurt your relationship if you're upfront about it. If you tell them, hey, I bid this project 3 weeks ago and I can't meet your schedule anymore because you haven't awarded it, right? Like I have other irons in the fire. If I get one of these first, I can't do your job. But if I don't tell you that and I wait till you tell me like, hey, we've won the job, here you go. Now you're locked into a price and I'm not obligated. So you're kind of hosed, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot worse than if I would have just said like, hey, just so you know, I might have to pull out of the running depending on how this goes, but I need you, the faster decision, the better off, right?
Right. Yeah.
It helps you push the client too.
Right. And a lot of that has to do with having like really good systems in place too, processes. Yeah. So I have a very thorough pre-construction process, during the design process and planning that we work through all these different steps. Like I work through the steps with the homeowner to actually design the project and spec it and, get it all ready, and then have a trade partner walkthrough where everyone gets a plan and they come and they see the place and we all walk through together and we troubleshoot off of each other. And like these people know each other because they've worked on the same jobs and, and other contractors are also using, like, it's a, it's big business here in Minneapolis, the remodeling industry, but it's also really like, it's a small town. Even
everyone knows each other.
Metropolitan area.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah. And so we go and everybody goes as a team to look at the electrical panel, look at the plumbing systems, look at, the structure, whatever it is. We're looking at all of that and we're troubleshooting together. And because I have the plumber and the electrician and the HVAC people and drywaller and painter and the framer all in one place, and other people, but all in one place, we can say, okay, well, the plumber goes, okay, well, this is where I'm bringing my plumbing from the basement all the way up to the second floor for this new bathroom, right? So then we all talk about, okay, what wall are we going to go up? And then Josh says, well, I need to run my wires too. So I'll come up there with you, through that same wall because we're opening that up on the first floor. We're going to open that up. And then the dryer says, okay, well, I'm going to add a little in there for patching that. And the painter's going to say, yep, I'm going to need to paint this whole wall or maybe even the whole room. So I'm going to add a little bit for that. And everyone's there, where if I just send them a plan and say, bid it, they don't know any of this stuff. So it allows me to be more accurate with my clients, but it also allows us all as a team before the project starts, before I even sign a contract with the clients, it allows us all to figure out kind of what things are we each not seeing.
Yeah, I think that's really, it's insightful because, as a commercial project manager for so many years, I'm just given drawings and it's like, here you go. And I don't have access necessarily at Langley Air Force Base or Vanderbilt Hospital to go look at these
Mhm.
areas and there's so many existing conditions, you don't know what's in them. But
Right.
I've had a different perspective of like, just give me drawings that are functional that I can use and I'll bid it for you and we'll make
Right.
it work. But
Yeah.
well, we have a couple people. We
Okay.
have April said, sorry, I'm late,
Hi,
and that's
April.
okay, April. Thank you for joining. And then a question from Jake. What can a new trade partner do to get the opportunity to work to build a relationship in order to be invited to bid? I'll let
Gosh.
you
Yeah,
take
that's a
lead on
great
that one.
question. Like how do you even get in front of me? How do you,
Yeah, how would
yeah,
I reach
that's a
out
great
to
question.
you to just, it's intimidating. Do I just message you on LinkedIn? Do I call you up? Do I just show up with donuts and say, "Hey, I'm an electrician"? These are all real things that everybody thinks and they do.
Yeah.
And and as a trade partner, you're like, "Well, I want to stand out. I don't want to waste their time, and I know I'm just going to be like met with, I'm busy." So we don't
Yeah.
do it.
Well, so yeah, that's a great question. So I love donuts, but don't stop by because I work from my home. Um,
Yeah. There you go.
and yeah, I would say the most effective way for me,
Mhm.
being that I am a relationship builder before I'm a work builder.
Mhm.
Um, for me, I would say, a really like a nice phone call, voicemail, whatever, or an email that's like, personally written, not, hey, I'm a drywaller, can I bid your projects? But like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I, heard about you from this, or I saw your website, or, say something that makes me know that you're paying attention and that it's not just like a form email that you're sending to every contractor in the whole state. And then I would say, um, yeah, just want to know more about my company and my clients before when can I bid the next job? Like build
Yeah.
a relationship. Um, because
Yeah.
what if you're like, hey, can I bid your jobs? And then I send you something to bid, or I invite you to a trade partner. Well, I'm not going to invite you to a walkthrough unless I've already talked to you and we know each other a little bit. But
Mhm.
um, what if I send you something to bid and then you send it back and I award you the job, which this would never happen this way, but I award you the job and then you realize like, oh, this isn't even the kind of work I want to do. I don't,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
contractor sucks, or she's a real ass, whatever. Don't you
Mhm.
want to like know that first? So just be personal
Yeah.
and get in front of people. But um
Yep.
also, like, I don't know about you. There's a ton of subcontractors out there that, you know, there's so many. So you just have to introduce yourself. I would
Yeah.
also say that there are not enough. So I'm a member of NARI, which is the National Association of Remodeling Industry,
Mhm.
and active in the Minnesota chapter. And what I would say is there are not nearly enough subcontractors in associations like that. So if you want to get in front of
Mm.
contractors and actually build relationships and like really spend time in the community with all these contractors and even suppliers that would be able to have a reciprocal relationship, um,
Mhm.
join these organizations, get to know people, go and meet people.
Yeah. I really like that advice because a lot of times in commercial construction, it's like, hey, all these jobs populate on, you know, Procore or wherever, building connected. I'm gonna just bid them all as a various bidder and do this, and that
Mhm.
works for some people. Sometimes you have to do that to get your name in the door, your foot in the door. Um, Especially like if you're gonna open a new, like I think of the way your experience works with the commercial world is you're a remote general contractor and I don't
Mhm.
have a way to go visit you. So how
Yeah.
do I interact with you when I can't physically go to your office? And I know your situation is a little different for that reason, but a lot of the things you're saying really align with what I see people that are successful do. Like when you do join associations, there's word of mouth where, hey,
Mhm.
I'm moving into Nashville. What are some good drywall companies? Like, you don't think that
Exactly.
people talk and know each other. But if you're not out there, it's just like, hey, there's AA drywall, because they're just
Right.
doing the SEO thing and the phone book strategy, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm not just going to reach out to AA drywall. I know nothing about them, but if I heard good things about them and they called me, that would go a long ways, right?
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and Heather wanted, like she said, donuts do work.
Sometimes, yeah.
I think we're in this new age too, where at least in my house, like we're trying to eat healthier, and it's horrible because you have donuts show up and you have 2 dozen,
Yeah.
and there's 3 people that are in this job trailer every day or something, and it's like now we're just gonna have donuts for a week.
Right.
And yeah, that's first world problem.
Well, take those boxes of donuts and walk out and hand them out to your crew.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I think that we all just get so driven by like trying to play chess. Like, what's their move going to be? What are they thinking?
Mhm.
How do I get in their head? And I mean, that's the marketing world.
Yeah.
But everybody has the same questions, and I think you're going to attest to this because I just filled out a prequal with a client of mine, and it's like, where do you get your manpower? Do you have the ability to staff this job? Do you have what experience do you have? Basically, a company resume on why should I trust your name and your company to be able to handle this.
Yeah.
Do you would you advocate for that if somebody came up to you and said, hey, like, this is my name, or like an email, and if you'd be interested, I have a resume that I can tell you a little more about what we do.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, like, I respect you have plenty of other people. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I respect you have plenty of other electrical contractors, but if you're interested in another one that's different than the other ones, like, this is where I stand out.
Yeah, and that word different is a good one to use. How are you different? It's one of the marketing, in any business, is to differentiate yourself. And that doesn't mean better, because anybody can be better. Like we're all doing the same thing, and anyone can be better than the other person. It's how are you different? How do you approach this differently? How do you operate differently? Whatever it is, and identify those things and communicate those. I had something else and it just went away. So
no, you're okay. I was looking past my phone because I use my phone camera. But Edmund popped in and he said, we're hitting on an interesting point. And it's I deal with this myself. I mean, as a business owner, and I know you as well, it's like I have to get into all these buckets of things that I'm not familiar with, and that I get into the marketing brain and I'm trying to do all that stuff, and then I mess it up because I'm trying, like, you market differently than when you talk to somebody individually. And so,
but do you, like, if your marketing message is really on brand and on mission, are you,
yeah, that's true.
If you're aligning with, if you have a really strong mission and a really strong values in your company, that really direct how you make decisions, what where you're going, sort of the behaviors of you and the people in your company. You should also be marketing that way, and you should also be like making your decisions that way and building your relationships that way. And so perhaps that means that the marketing is not quite as
quite where it should be. Yeah.
Where it should be. And
yeah,
I guess
to tell you what to do. For me, it's always like marketing to many, business development is to one, right? So like, while I'm trying to talk to the industry and the state of everything, the way, again, my marketing is nowhere where it needs to be. So if anybody is marketing and they have some ideas, like, hit me up. I have no problem admitting that it's not my strength, but
I guess
you hit on a good point.
I think that at least the way that I see it is marketing of your company should be almost as if you're talking to one person. If you have an ideal client and you have an ideal type of project or whatever it is, like if you should be able to say, like, this is my marketing message, as if I'm sitting at someone's dining room table talking about their remodeling project or putting it on a billboard.
Yeah, you're saying the exact same. Yeah, yeah. In Heather has a couple of things. I'm gonna go out of order here, but what Heather just said was business development wins over marketing, in her opinion, and that's kind of what I've always thought is like marketing is just brand awareness.
Mhm.
Business development is more like the relationships. It's just I don't know what the department is between the two, but that's where everybody struggles is how do I go from marketing to building the relationship? And I think that's what Jake was asking earlier. So I appreciate all of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we
The
kind of
other
went away from some
Yeah, no,
contract
you're fine.
conversation, but
And I didn't the way I have the screen set up, it's kind of weird with Heather's long comment, but we're going to read it anyway. One of the coolest things that we experienced during the pandemic was a vendor had Chick-fil-A door dashed to people's homes, and then we all ate together via video call. It's a little different when you work from home and you're not going to give your address to a stranger, but getting a little creative would be a great way to build a relationship. How would
it's
you
true.
feel about that, Heather? Or sorry, Donella. How would you feel about somebody
We
like?
know how Heather feels about it.
Yeah, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I think that it would be kind of a interesting thing. I think that would probably apply a little more to what you were talking about, where it's sort of a national relationship building, where somebody's on one side of the country, and the build projects is on the other side of the country, and then the different people working on it are spread out throughout. I think that could be a really effective way to foster building that relationship and sort of inviting somebody to dinner, somebody to lunch. For me, everything is home remodeling is local. Everything is local.
Yeah.
So when I say like, don't come by my house, it's just because I'm probably
I mean
in
it.
my pajamas. But like just yesterday I had lunch with a trade partner that, we talked about these very things of, how do we make sure that we're working well together? And it was a partner that I had worked with for many years. And then some things kind of got a little shaky, and I decided to investigate other directions, and worked out and didn't work out. And now, we're back to seeing how this could potentially work. And I think based on that conversation, I think that they're in a really good place. And I think, the way that they're set up now is probably going to work a lot better for me. And
they got their house under control.
What's that?
They got their house under control, or they're managing their house better so they can.
Seems that way. Yeah. And it's really great to see, because it's a company that's been around a long time, and they just, kind of went through some changes, and they really seem like they're getting.
Yeah. If you don't mind in me asking and probing a little bit, what are some of the changes that they went through that made them not a great subcontractor to then what did they do to make you feel, again, more confident? Because I know that people are going to sit here and think like residential is so different than everything else, but it's really not. It's a whole relationship. So how would you, what are the things that you saw that gave you that confidence again?
Yeah. So, when, during the time that I kind of, started to look elsewhere, some of the things were just, it seemed like there was like a little bit of some turnover, and there was a little bit of like,
like bad blood and
attitude. And it was just sort of like a morale thing almost. And I understood it because they were going through some changes, like they had done some management changes and things like that. But it just seemed like there was some morale issues, and it was just not, things weren't going as well as they should. And I so really, I had been thinking about giving him a call again, because I had started to hear from others who had been working with them. Like, what, I think the shakiness might be a little better now. And like, and I happened to, when I sort of looked elsewhere, really, really great options. But I also was finding that those people were, it was difficult to have them not be distracted by more important things in their company, which I totally understood, but I still need you, right? So,
Right.
and so it was just not
Right.
as, it didn't work out the way that I had hoped that it would, in the way that I hoped that it would. And so I had already been thinking about reaching out, and then I ran into the sales manager who I've known for a lot of years, and ran into him at an industry event, and he said, "Hey, let's talk about working together again." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do that."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Nice.
so when we had lunch, he just explained that they're doing things differently, and I
Mhm.
liked everything that they were saying. And so a lot of sort of weeding out of some things, and starting from the basics, and the way that they restructured their management. I'm digging it, so I'm excited to work together again.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that's a good, also, if you're a subcontractor and you, for whatever reason, have stopped getting called by a contractor that you've worked with for a while, don't be afraid to reach out to them. And don't,
Mhm.
and even if there's something that's like, you know what, this isn't really working for either of us right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that won't come back.
Right.
Because you're in a phase right now, and you'll both be in a phase later. I think one thing that's really, really important, and this is something that I brought up with him when we were meeting yesterday, is that at the time that I decided to start looking elsewhere,
Mhm.
the mistake that I made was that I didn't reach out to him and tell him why. And I
Mm.
regret that, because not only could they have that could have given them a chance to sort of explain or correct or
Mhm.
something. And I didn't do that. And that wasn't fair to them. And I'm really dedicated to like not having that happen anymore. Because there's been
Yeah.
times throughout my career that I've like not said what my instinct told me, or just sort of let something go rather than confronting it or whatever. And
Yeah.
not that it has to be confrontation, but just, and I'm not doing that anymore. And so
Yeah.
I think this was a really good thing for both of us to have the conversation.
Yeah, people pay for that kind of data. They pay for people to call their clients and ask them for good feedback. But the bad feedback is what we all really care about. Like, yeah, we can lean into our strengths, but we also need to cover our weaknesses. Otherwise, we're gonna lose clients that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Edmund said this is back to earlier when we were talking about business development kind of stuff. That has worked for him before, but I feel it all depends on the person who would love to know what you can offer at the time of need. And I think that's so true. It's hard to, like, we could sit here and hand out our resumes to everybody, but like, I know how to do all of these things. But um, you know, I think as you build those relationships over time, people start to see like you're a Swiss Army knife and you know all these things. Maybe you get in the door with one thing you're really, really good at.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like when I work with people as a CFO, um, it doesn't start as a CFO because there's a lot of problems that their accounting's not set up, their cost coding
Mm-hmm.
is not right. We have to make sure everything gets aligned, like gets their house in order. Otherwise, I'm just, giving you a bunch of data that looks nice on paper, but it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Um, and Lori,
Hey,
thank
Lori.
you for joining, Lori. She says she loves these insights, and I know that she's one of your contacts. And thank you for being here. It's refreshing to hear from somebody else. Like we're just people. It's you can get wrapped up in the big general contractors, the $1 billion contractors, but at the end of the day, they're built up of people,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
all of these
exactly right.
things go side to side, like they transcend industries and sectors.
Right.
Um, so switching it up a little bit, what are some of the common mistakes that you see from subcontractors that maybe could be prevented, like the one that you were referring to?
Um, hmm. I mean, I think the biggest thing lately is morale. There have been, I think the probably the last, I don't know, handful of things that I can think of that made me second guess whether I wanted to continue working with a trade partner is attitude, is morale. It's you know, I want people who want to be there. Like we get to do
Mhm.
a really cool thing for a
Yeah.
living. We
Yeah.
get to build people's homes or build buildings if you're in commercial, or build bridges, or we get to do really cool things, very tangible
Yeah.
artistry things. And if I get that that's not for everyone, but if it's not for you, I don't want you on my job site. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
people here that really want to be here and that really want to, you know, do a great job. And they know that they know the assignment. They know that this is for someone's home. They spend their
Yeah.
most intimate, private moments in this space, and you're building it for them. That's really, really cool. It's an honor and it's a privilege. And I want people who know that and feel that to be on my job sites. And sometimes you can't hit that every single day. I mean, I get it.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes there are days when, even though I love doing this and this is like my dream job, I still don't
Like, I
want
just don't want to be here. I don't want to do this
today.
today.
Like it's not, you know,
Yeah.
or I need to be doing something else or whatever. But
Mhm.
I have to, and I work on it every day. Just
Yeah.
in the moment, be here, be doing what you're doing because it's really important.
Yeah.
And on a
I
scale, remodeling someone's bathroom or kitchen
Mhm.
is not like building a stadium. It's not the same scale, but it's still creating moments for people. It's
Mhm.
creating, you know, participating in people's lives. And it's a really cool thing. And we should be happy to be doing it. And so the things that, you know, there's, when somebody doesn't want to be there, it's really difficult for me to uh,
Yeah.
put up with that.
Yeah, you
um,
bring up a really interesting point because a lot of times it's not the homeowner that's or the sorry, the business owner that's there that doesn't want to do it. It's the people that they have working for them.
mhm. Right.
But that stems from what I've seen. That doesn't that stems from how they're treated by their business or how it's perceived that they're treated by their business.
Right. Right.
Um,
And, you know, if, you know, one example was, I'm purposely not saying like what trade and all of that kind of stuff, because again, it's a small town around here. But um, one that really stands out to me is a team that was working, and it was a team of four, and one of the people, a couple of them were just sort of quiet and they did the job and they just, you know, sort of did what they were supposed to do. And they did it well and had a fine attitude about it. But I think that they were very quiet about it because because of the rest of the team. And there was one person in particular on the team that had a very bad attitude and was very vocal about it. And very vocal about the things that he was not happy with in his company. And then there was the fourth one who was a team lead. So he was leading the rest of them. And he wasn't a project manager, but he was like just the lead that day and with that team. And what I witnessed was this all happening. And what I would have loved to see happen is that team lead talk with that person that has the bad morale and say, you know, whatever it is, it's your team member, so you figure it out. But like, let's shut that down, right? Because for the good of the rest of the job site and for the good of the rest of your team, I would have really expected that team lead would have been trained in a way to shut that down and turn it around and boost morale and figure it out. And if it couldn't be fixed, remove that person, right? That didn't happen. The team lead joined in and they sort of had this like banter back and forth the entire 3 days that they were on the job site of what all the things that were wrong with the company that they worked for. It had nothing to do with me. They were nice to me and they were fine, and did the job, but they did it slowly and crabbily. And I just can't help but think how much nicer that would have been for everyone else that was on the job site, everyone on their team, and for me, for that to not have happened, for that to just sort of getting shut down to begin with. And so, it's disappointing. So then I have to go to my salesperson or whatever it is and say, like, this is an issue. I can't have this. And so that's making it difficult for me. And it's taking my attention away from the other things that I need to be doing and serving my client and all of those different things, where that should have been the trade partner that I hired. It should have been that company that did something about that. And that is, I would say that's an example, but I would say that happens more frequently than I would like. And even in companies that seem to be really great companies. So sometimes you just can't, it's the person, like sometimes people just don't want to be here or they're not satisfied with whatever, but it's up to the company to shut that down. And I don't mean shut it down in like a forceful way or whatever, but just, nip it in the bud, figure it out, figure out what you need to do to have a better morale in your company and what to do for that person to make them want to be there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Toxicity, it's like one bad apple can always ruin the bunch, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess we can't finish this conversation without asking. And I know it's impossible to be a perfect trade partner, but is it possible to find construction partners, whether it's a GC or a subcontractor, in today's world that are ideal and that all align in all their goals?
Yeah. I mean, I will not even hesitate to say yes, because I have some, I have partners like that. I guess I can't assume what they think about me, but they keep coming back to my jobs. And so, and seem to have a great attitude about it. And, even when I screw up, they come back. So, yeah, I think so. I don't think it's possible for everyone. I mean, it's not possible for every human to align on all of their goals and all of their, missions. But if we can be on the same page about going in the same direction, if we can be clear on who this is for, which is it's for the client, it's for the homeowner, then we can, typically we can work well together. And for, all the reasons that I mentioned before, obviously those things that are not negotiable, price, schedule, and quality, like those are not negotiable. Well, price is sometimes, but we don't need to get into that whole thing. It's not really negotiable. It's more of like scope change and whatever, but, it's really the relationship, and treating each other like humans, not being too busy to have an important conversation, not being too busy to plan things, and taking ownership for your part of the process. The trade partner can't rely on their general contractor to do 100% of the planning. If you have a job to do, you need to show up having it planned and helping to make sure that when you show up, it's ready for you. That's not just on the general contractor. That's on you to make sure that you are, like you wouldn't show up to work without your tools. Well, planning and having conversations, that's a tool. So I see it the same way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all your insight today. And with that, I don't think we have any other questions, and I appreciate all your time.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody who came and joined us today. This was really fun. I hope you got something out of it.
Yeah, thank you.